We're going to start on Samach Dalet on base about halfway down. First word on the line, Amar Rav Yehuda Einei Chayiv. That's where we were in the middle of that Gemara yesterday. Amar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda says, Einei Chayiv, we're talking about the Avera of Maver B'no Yuvita L'Malach. Right, so he's not chayiv until he passes him derech havara, the way that you're supposed to pass the kid over. What is that way? Hechidami, what's that? Rabbi says, Shraga the Livni, they used to have this pile of bricks in the middle, nur mehagis and nur mehagis, and a fire on each side. And they would pass the kid over.
Not kill the kid.
No, they would not kill the kid, Rashi says. And you have a riot from that later on, Rashi says. But in a minute to the Gemara is going to say, what if a guy puts himself over Malach? Is he going to be chayiv? Now, if he's dead already, how's he going to be chayiv? Right? So Rashi says, this is talking about it's not going to kill the kid. It's just the thing that they did.
He got hurt though.
I guess not, or if they did, it wasn't enough to kill them. Rashi contrasts this with what we had on the before on Samach Gimel and Beis. We were talking about the Anshe the Svarvim would do, and it says once again Melachim Beis says Vasvarvim Surfim Espanehim Beish. The Svarvim would burn their children in fire. Lader Melech Van Melech Elihei Svarvim. For in honor of the Avodah Zaros, Adar Melech and Anamelech, the gods of the Svarvim. So over here, they actually would do human sacrifice, but Melech is not human sacrifice. Okay, that's how Abai says they would do it. And Rava says kimashverasa defuria, like jumping on Purim. What would it mean? It means that they did some sort of they wouldn't walk the kid over from point A to point B. They would do jumps like kids would be jumping on Purim. Apparently there was some way the kids used to jump on Purim, and Rav was comparing it to that jumping. That's how they do it. But what you do see from Rav is that they didn't walk regular. So the Gemara Tanya Kavas to Rav. I'll bring you a brayso that's a raya to Rava. The brayso says, "Ine chayvat shevirenu derech havara." You're not going to be chayiv until you pass the kid over the regular way of passing him over. Haviroi beregal. If you just passed him over by walking through, beregal means by foot, so you just walked over, then it's going to be pater. It's pater. Ve'ene chayiv. The brayso continues, but the first part is the raya to Rava, because you see that a regular walking is all you need to do to be. A regular walking is pater. You need something besides a regular walking. So it's raya to Rava who said that you jump like on Purim.
People are doing this one where they're concerned how they're in chayiv.
Well, Bezdin needs to know in what situation they're going to be pater or chayiv, right? But you're going to do that vera. There's a right way to do that vera, and there's a wrong way to do that vera. You do it the right way, you're going to be chayiv. You do it the wrong way, it's not a mitzvah. You're not going to go to Gan Eden for it. But it's Bezdin is not going to be chayiv you. Okay, Zak the Maravaiter. The brayso continues. The Einei Chayiv El Al Yetzi Reichai. A person's only chayiv if he does this moilech for somebody who's a descendant of his. Hakeitzad. What's the case? What is an example of that? Benai Ubitai, his son or his daughter, chayiv. If he's maver them l'moilech, he's going to be chayiv. Ava v'imai acha v'achaisa, his father, mother, brother, sister, pater will be pater. Hever atzmai, if he himself passed over, pater. And that's what Rashi says from before. It's a raya that they wouldn't kill the moilech person for the moilech. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon Mechayiv, and Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon would be Mechayiv if he was Hever Atzmai. He holds that even if he holds there's a special pasuk, we'll see it in a minute, he holds that the Xer Sekasa, that even somebody who's Maver himself will be Chayiv.
The third says Maver Bonai Ubitay.
Right. So why does Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon say you're Chayiv if you're Maver yourself? It's not Bonai Ubitay, right? So the Gemara is going to ask that in a minute. Echad the Moilech ve'echad the Sharva Dizara Chayiv. Whether someone does this Maisa of Havara, Avodah Havara, whether he does it for Moilech or for a different Avodah Zara, he'll be Chayiv. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Omer LeMoilech Chayiv, Shlai LeMoilech Pater. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon says that for Moilech he'll be Chayiv, but for other Avodah Zara he'll be Pater. Amar Ula. Ula says, my time with Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon. What's the reason Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon? First, he said that if you pass yourself by Moilech, you'll be Chayiv. Amar Krabux, the pasuk says, Lo yimatze b'cha. it shouldn't be found by you. The end of the pasuk is this whole laundry list, including Mavra b'nai Yibita, it shouldn't be by you. What's b'cha? B'cha is ba'atzimcha. In other words, even you yourself are in this love of not being passed through by Melech. Frakti Gemara, you're telling me this Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon holds this, but the Rabbanan we still argued with him. But what do you mean? How can the Rabbanan argue? The Rabbanan leidarshi b'cha. The Rabbanan don't use the lashon b'cha to mean by yourself. That's not so. That's not. We learned in the Mishnah. Following halacha, Avedasei v'Avedas Aviv. Somebody found two Avedas at the same time. He found his own, let's say his own sheep wandering, and his father's sheep wandering. Right? Which one does he have to do first? To return. Does he return his own first, and then maybe miss out on his father's? The sheep will continue wandering away and get lost, or he has to return his father's first, and then maybe his will get lost. The Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Shaloi Kaidemes, his comes first. V'amrina in my time, we'll say why. Rabbi Yehuda says, the pasuk says, Efes K'loyeh b'cha evyain. It shouldn't be in you an evyan. In other words, you should be.
One sheep, maybe it is.
I said a sheep. What if it's a wallet with stock options for Tesla? Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda says, the pasuk says, "Efes kloyeh b'cha evyan." There won't be in you an evyan. And that's that means that you have a mitzvah to make sure that you don't get poor. And that teaches us shalai kodemes l'shal kol adam. That yours you get first before any other people. Even your father. So the Gemara says, you see, the Rabbanan are gairis b'cha. They are not gairis. They do darshan b'cha to mean you. And for the Gemara, no. Really, the Rabbanan don't darshan b'cha. Hasam may efes. Over there, they learn that from the first word of the pasuk. It says, "Efes kilo yevchavin." There shouldn't be of efes means like nothing. Like the pasuk says, "Ki afes kasef." There was no more money left by the Mitzrayim during the hunger during the time of Yosef.
Losing all your money, just like your father's sheep or your sheep.
So the Gemara over here is not machalik and says that seems to say that from here that even if a guy's a lot of money, but the pasuk is saying according to Rabbi Elazar Rab Shimon and according to Rabbanan from the pasuk Efes that yours comes first. I just really wanted to finish how the Rabbanan learn Efes. The pasuk says Rashi says. The Gemara says Hasame Efes because the pasuk said Efes Kloyeh b'Chavyan. Efes means like there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be like really shouldn't be. It's an underscore.
Come up.
An evi. In other words, you make sure that you shouldn't be poor. Okay, and that means that the pasuk is saying that in a situation like this, you go return yours before your father's. Okay, Zaktimar Viter. So this pasuk is telling you a exception, right? That the value of lo yibacha evyain will supersede, will overpower the kibbutz. Yeah. Zaktimar. Tanur Amar Rabbi Yisrael Reb Chanina. First wide line. Rabbi Yisrael Reb Chanina says Shalosh krisis b'Avodah Zarah lama. Why do you have the pasuk says krisis 3 times by Avodah Zarah? Rashi lists what are the 3 times. By Moilech it says twice, and by and in Parashat Shlach he says Kidvar Hashem bazav es mitzvasei heifar hikares tikares hanefesh. So and that's talking about Avodah Zarah. Rashi says. So you have 3 times kares. The Gemara is going to ask we have other times kares also, but these are the 3 times that the Gemara is talking about at first over here. So shalosh krisis b'Avodah Zarah lama. Why does the Torah have to tell you 3 different times that a person who does Avodah Zarah will get kares? In other words, the Torah is saying that Avodah Zarah is kares. Then it says there's another level of Avodah Zarah that you would have thought doesn't get kares, but that also gets kares. And then the Gemara says, the Torah is saying, and there's a third level of Avodah Zarah that you would have said doesn't get kares, but he still gets kares. Right? That's why you have to say kares 3 times. What are the 3 times alluding to? Zak the Gemara. Shalosh krisis b'Avodah Zarah lama. So Rabbi Yisrael Chanina wants to know what are the 3 krisis. Achas lekedarka. One is if you do Avodah Zarah the normal way, whether it's to throw an Evan to Markulis or bow down to a regular idol or whatever it is, but that's the normal avodah, then the person does it as chayav karas. And one is if it's not the normal way, but still, right, normal way is to throw a stone at it, like Markulis. But a person went and he made a carbon to it, or he bowed to it. So that's
one of the four things you said.
Bowing's one of the four things.
Carbon.
Carbon also. That's right? Bowing, carbon. We call that kitar, burning. That's carbon. Zivach is shechting, and nisach is the wine. So the second one is for shleik darka, that even if it's not the normal way, but if it's one of those four avodas, the person will be chayav karas. The achas l'mailach, and one is for mailach. Now, why do you have to say for mailach? Because this man de Amar says that mailach is not avodah zara. So if mailach is not avodah zara, we touched upon this on yesterday's daf.
Torah says
Torah doesn't say it's avodah zara. Torah says don't do it. But maybe it's not avodah zara. Maybe this was just one of the chukas hagayim that they did, and this one the Torah said this is really bad. Do not do like the goyim. Right? So Rashi says this on Amud Aleph, I believe it was. So this man the Amar holds that Melech is not Avodah Zarah. So that's why the Torah has to say by Melech it's like Avodah Zarah, no question. It resembles it, right? But it's not Etzem Avodah Zarah. Melech pass the kid over the fire, right? So that's why the Torah has to say a third time that this krisis by Melech, because otherwise the person would have said he's not chayiv karas. But what about the man de Amar that it is avodah zarah? Fact the Gemara, the man de Amar meilech avodah zarah he karas for meilech lamali. Why do you have to have somebody a pasuk to say karas by meilech according to the man de Amar that meilech is avodah zarah? If it is avodah zarah, it's already included in the other karases that we said by avodah zarah. So we don't need to say meilech separately, right? And for the Gemara, l'mavra b'nai shlei kedarka, when somebody is does with a different avodah zarah, by a different avodah zarah does this mavra b'nai, that the Torah will be mechayev that even that is considered like meilech, even though it's not the derech of meilech in that particular avodah zarah, which is not meilech, and therefore they be chayev. Track the Gemara, man damar megadef avodah zarah. You said there are three psukim. According to man damar, that's megadef. It's a machlekes. Is megadef of mevarach Hashem, or is megadef oived avodah zarah? So according to man damar, megadef is avodah zarah. And it says by megadef, it says karas. So then karas of megadef lamali. What do you need karas by megadef? In other words, if it's regular avodah zarah, you already said karas 3 times by avodah zarah. Why do you need to say it a 4th time by megadef? And for the Gemara, like we learned in a brayso, this is what you do it for. Pasuk says, by megadef, he kares tikares. It's a double lashon. What's the pasuk? Kidvar Hashem baza, the words of Hashem he embarrassed, vas mitzvasei heifar, and his mitzvahs he abrogated. That's probably a better English word than that. He kares tikares b'nefesh. What? Maybe. I used to write for Atzko many years ago. So maybe not in Gemara. No, I wrote Daily Dose of Torah and some other projects. But the pasuk says that's mitzvah heifar he kares tikares nefesh yehavaynaba. That nefesh should be cut off. It has done its sin. So the Gemara says, or Rabbi Kiva says, he kares tikares. What does that mean? He kares b'olam. It's a double lashon. He kares b'olam hazeh. He should get cut off in this world. Tikares l'olam haba, and he should also get cut off in the olam haba. Divrei Rabbi Kiva. That's what Rabbi Kiva says. Amle Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel said back to Rabbi Kiva, va'aloi. Kvar Nemar, the very pasuk before. This is Bamidbar Tesvav Lamed Aleph, but the pasuk before Bamidbar Tesvav Lamed says Nefesh Shtas Biyadrama. Somebody, a person who does with a brazen hand, with chutzpah. Whether he lives there as a yid or a ger taishav, as Hashem hu megadef, he's megadef Hashem, and that nefesh should be cut off from its nation. And the pasuk continues, why? Because the words of Hashem he embarrassed and he abrogated the mitzvahs. He kares the nefesh he should get cut off. So Rabbi Shmuel is saying back to Rabbi Kiva, it's already said v'nichrasa in the pasuk before. So now if you're talking about Megadif, the whole thing, right? Then it says v'nechrasa, v'nechrasa, v'nechrasa. So you're going to say are there 3 worlds? You're going to say that each v'nechrasa means one world. Olam hazeh, olam haba, and then olam haba, olam haba. It doesn't exist. There's only 2 worlds. So what does it mean? Ela v'nechrasa b'olam hazeh. The pasuk, the first pasuk is that's v'nechrasa nefeshahi. That's talking about olam hazeh. The second pasuk, he kares tikares. So he kares means olam haba. And tikares, the second word tikares in the second pasuk, so it's the third time it says kares. Dibra Torah klashim liyadam. Mishmal says we're not Irish that. That's the normal way people speak, and that's why the pasuk says it. But that's not here at the darshan. Okay, now we're up to today's daf. We have a new mishnah, some exciting stuff, spooky stuff. Okay, next mishnah. Bal oiv zeh pisaim hamedaber mishechgai. Bal oiv is pisaim, is a kind of a soothsayer. Hamedaber mishechgai, who speaks out from his armpit. He puts this. What was that? I don't know exactly how it is. The Gemara will say that there's some sort of banging with his arms. The Gemara's going to say that with base. But he takes part of the mace. He takes the mace out of the ground.
But the bone.
Hold on, that's what we'll see in a second. And he puts the mace under his armpit somehow, and he makes that. Well, obviously, it's not something we have anymore. We've lost any knowledge or ability to do that. But that's how they still had it. Certainly in the time of the Nevi'im. I don't know if they had it still in the time of the Mishnah, but we have this by Shaul. We're going to see on Amud Beis. We have the story where Shaul brought up the nefesh of Shmuel and others. So, what's a Yedaini? This is a person who speaks with his mouth, and this is the piece that you were saying with Shmuel. The Gemara says that there's a chayim whose name is the Yedua. That was the name of this little animal, or I assume it's a little animal. And he takes this particular bone from the animal and he puts it into his mouth, and then the bone speaks from inside his mouth. That's cool. Yes. So these 2 things are 5 skila. What? Not about Tzara. It's the pasuk. The pasuk says, Shoyel oivi yedayni, someone who asks oivi yedayni, the pasuk says. So and that's the pasuk in Dvarim, and Vayikra pasuk says, V'yisha yisha ki yibehem oivi yedayni, when a person asks an oivi yedayni, mois yumsu, they should get killed. Even yerg moisim demandam, they should get killed with skila. So that's what the Mishnah says, with skila, they get skila. Vanishal behem, and the person who asks them, right, so they went and they did the oivi yedayni. But somebody came over and asked them, no, Yankel, go ask your oiv or your yedayni, tell me, I don't know, if my stock is going to go up or down tomorrow, right? So Vanishal behem, somebody who asks them Bazhara, he gets a lav. It's not chayav skila.
He has something to do with family?
There's the oiv yedayni guy, and he has a clientele. Right? If you go drive down a bunch of places around Lakewood.
Palm readers?
Yeah, psychics.
They're bogus, no?
Yeah, they're bogus. But you know what? I believe they make a good living. Okay? Gemara. Frak the Gemara. Why is it over here that the Mishnah says oiv and yedayni? Maishna gabe krisus the ktani bal oiv v'shayrei liyedayni. And by krisus, the Mishnah says oiv, and it doesn't say yedayni. What's going on? Because the Mishnah in krisus lists all the chayvei krisus in the Torah, and one of them that it says is oiv, and it does not say yedayni. So Gemara is asking over here. It says oiv and yedayni both get skila, but how come if they both get skila, they should both get karas also? Why does it only say oiv gets karas and it doesn't say yedayni gets karas? Rabbi Yochanan says they were both given. The Torah gave them in one lav, and if a person does them both in one helam, just like we had the machlekes before by the Zara, if a person does them both in one helam, he will only be chayiv one chatas, and therefore he'll only be chayiv one karas. I mean, he can only be chayiv one karas, but therefore the Mishnah over there in Krisus didn't separate them out because usually you say one Krisus, whenever there's a chatas, there's a Krisus. But over here, if a person does oiv and yedayni, he'll only get one chatas. Therefore, the Mishnah only says one krisus. No, You know why it didn't say Yudayni? Because yes, it's true that Yudayni will get skila, but Yudayni does not bring a chatas, because a Yudayni does not have a maisa, and the halacha is by carbon chatas. It says is the lashon, the pasuk in Vayikra is asher lo say a sena, that you didn't do it. You have to have an asiya, you have to have a maisa to be chayav chatas, and since you're not chayav chatas, you're also not chayav karas. So that's why it's not listed, because taka yudayni, even though it's a chiddush, even though he's chayav skila, but if you did it without edim and asra, or you did it b'shaygig, he's not going to be chayav chatas or karas. Now that's two pshat work. Practically Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'ishna bal oiv dinachat. So you're telling me that it only said oiv, it said oiv in Krisis and not yudayni, because you're only going to get one chatas. So how come it says oiv? Why didn't it say yudayni? Right? It could have, for the same money, it could have said yudayni and not oiv. Why did it have to say oiv and not yudayni over there in Krisis? And for the Gemara, Mishon the pasuk Mekra, because the pasuk always says, whenever it says oiv and yudayni, it says oiv and yudayni. It doesn't say yudayni and oiv. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying that's the normal way to say it. Reish Lakish, my time in Rabbi Yehuda. Why did Reish Lakish say like Rabbi Yehuda to say that they're chayiv one chatas? That's why it only said one over there in Pisas. Rav Papa says chalukin in Misa. No, that they're differentiated in Misa. What's going on? The pasuk says when it talks about the Isser, it says the shoyl oiv yudayni, someone who asks an oiv and a yudayni, v'yudayni. But by the Misa, it says a different shprach. V'yisha yisha, a man or a woman, hiyavehem oiv o yudayni. When they have an oiv or a yudayni, then they get Misa. So since the Torah separated them by the Misa, it's considered that they're talking going to both get Einshim, and since they're both going to get Einshim, they'll both get Chatois, I'm sorry. It split them by. Reish Lakish said that the Yudayni does not have a Maisa, that's why he's not going to bring a carbon. But he doesn't want to say like Reish Lakish to say that they're only going to have one Chatas, because the Torah does split them by the Misa, and therefore. Right. Oh, Reish Lakish is saying since the Torah said the word oy between oy and yudayni, the Torah is saying that even if it was chayav a carbon, he says it's not chayav a carbon, Reish Lakish, because it's not chayav, it's not a ma'isa. But still, but even if it was chayav a carbon, it would have been chayav separately, even if you did it with oy. So he says you see from the Torah splits them apart that they must be two separate things, and that's why he has to say it. The reason why he doesn't say it is because it's going to be not chayav chatas. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Chalukah, the lav, when you split something in the lav, and the Torah says don't do this and don't do this, two separate things. Shema chalukah, that's considered chalukah. The Bach adds in the word chalukah again. Chalukah the Misa, when the fact that the Torah by the Misa says this or that, lo shema chalukah, that's not considered differentiation. So he doesn't go with what Rabbi Reish Lakish said. Now, the Gemara of Rabbi Yehuda, my time with Reish Lakish. Why did Rabbi Yehuda say Rabbi Reish Lakish? Rabbi Yehuda said that if a person does Eiv and Yudayni, he's only going to be chayiv one chatas. Why didn't he want to say like Reish Lakish, who said that the Yudayni will be patur from a chatas in Gansen? He says, no, I disagree, because I hold that the Mishnah in Krisis is Rabbi Kiva, and Rabbi Kiva holds that you don't need a Maisa to be chayiv a chatas. Reish Lakish says, no, I disagree. It's true that a Maisa Rabbah, a big Maisa, Rabbi Kiva doesn't need. Maisa Zuta boy. Maisa Zuta will a small Maisa you still have to do. In other words, yes, you don't have to do a big major Maisa. The Gemara is going to differentiate what a big Maisa is and a little Maisa is in a second. You don't have to do a big Maisa to be chayav, you still have to have a little Maisa. And he's saying that we're going to say, the Gemara is going to explain that the Yudayni is not a Maisa at all. It's not even a little Maisa. That's why Reish Lakish says I can't say that Mishnah is Rabbi Kiva, because Rabbi Kiva will still require a little Maisa, and Yudayni he's even less than that. Now the Gemara is going to explain. Wait, in fact, the Gemara, Megadif my Maiseika. What's the Maisa by Megadif? Megadif is someone who's Pashtus Mevarach Hashem. Akim Asvasav have a Maisa. His moving of his lips is a Maisa. That's why he's going to be Chayiv. Bal Oiv my Maiseika. Akashas Reisav have a Maisa. And in Oiv, what's the Maisa? He bangs his arms. Like you're making a motion, something like that. He bangs his arms. That's the Maisa. That's the Maisa. But Mashen Kinyadoini is not even a Maisa. He sticks the thing in his mouth and it talks by itself. Vafil Rabbanon, in fact, the Gemara, even according to the Rabbanon who argued from Akiva, it's still not a Maisa. But Tanya, we're going to the Braisa, Eine Chayiv Ela Davar Sheish B'Maisa. You're not chayiv on something that needs Maisa. I'm sorry. The Gemara's question is: even according to Rabbanan, Rish Lakish holds that that the Rabbanan are masking that oiv, which does the moving of the hands, that's considered a ma'isa according to Rabbanan. That's what the Gemara is asking, because oiv, everyone says it's going to be chayiv, right? So, but that's not a major ma'isa, this moving of the hands.
Once on the example, once it's clapping, and shakal voice of the ma'isa, that's three things. Clapping of his arm doesn't mean like this, though.
I don't know exactly how the clapping does it. Things like this, some sort of banging. Like Tasha is a banging, right? That's you use language. Someone's banging around in a pot. That's the kish karya, right? So that's some. I don't think that the people who wrote the article either knew exactly how Oiv and Yidayni worked, right? It's not something that we have in our. We know how the Gemara and the Rishonim explain it, but I don't think we really understand what it was. So there was some sort of movement. Now the Gemara is asking, according to Rabbanan who argue with Rabbi Kiva, is that movement going to be enough to be considered a Maisa, and that by Oiv you should be Chayiv? And the reason why the Gemara is asking this is because we're going to say in a second, the Rabbanan who argue with Rabbi Kiva, they only argue by Megadeh where he's talking. They don't argue by Oiv. So you see that moving your hands is a Maisa. Let's see that inside. You're only going to be chayiv on something that has a Maisa. You're going Zivuach v'kitor v'nisach v'shtachava. Our classic 4 avodas: shechting, burning, pouring, and bowing. Reish Lakish himself says, "Mantana ishtachava." Rabbi Kiva, who is the one who says that ishtachava will be chayiv? It's Rabbi Kiva. Damar lo bin Maisa. That you don't need a Maisa. That according to Rabbi Kiva, ishtachava is not a Maisa, but it's not a Maisa. It's a Maisa Zuta. It's not a Maisa Rabba. Right? What was that? And according to Rabbi Kiva, you're going to be chayiv. Now the Rabbanan argue with Rabbi Kiva, and the Rabbanan say, and the Rabbanan would say that it's not considered a Maisa, right? So you see, so how's Reish Lakish saying that the Rabbanan would consider Oiv a Maisa? And for the Gemara, you're right. Rabbi Kiva he Damar lo bin Maisa. You're right. This brisa without saying a name that doesn't say who it is Ritaka going according to Rabbi Kiva, who says you don't need a Maisa. You don't need a Maisa Rab. Rabbi Yechanan says Afilu Tema Rabbanan. You could even say it's the Rabbanan. Fivkas Kaimasil Rabbanan have a Maisa. The Rabbanan agree that bending down your height, in other words, by bowing, that's considered a Maisa. But the oiv will not be a Maisa. That's going to be. No, I'm sorry. Kvivus K'masa will be Maisa, and then I think the oiv. the oiv is less than that, could be the oiv is less than that, I think, and that will not be a maisa. Track the Gemara, Hashlo Rish Lakish, Kfifas Kamasi l'Rabbanon lo have a maisa. You're going to say that Rish Lakish holds that Kfifas Kamasi according to Rabbanon is not a maisa. Akashas Reyesa de Baloiv have a maisa. Are you going to say that bending your hands, which even less than bending down, is a maisa? Where it says Kikam Rish Lakish Tam Rabbi Kiva. Rish Lakish is also going only according to Rabbi Kiva to say that Akashas Reyesa is a maisa. Rabbanon loy, but you're going to say that according to Rabbanon it's not a maisa. Yachi Yatzim Megadef Uval Oivim Bailei. The Gemara says that Megadef according to Rabbanon does not have a maisa. That's what the Gemara says over there. Yatzim Megadef, excluding Megadef. It shouldn't say Yatzim Megadef alone. It should say Yatzim Megadef Uval Oiv, because you're saying that Rish Lakish should hold that according to the Rabbanon it's not a maisa. Even Oiv is not a maisa. Elamar Ula says you're right. Totally different teretz. The Mekater l'Shade. When it says that the oiv over there increases, it's not the same oiv as we're talking about over here. The oiv increases is talking about that he did with a maisa, that he is burning a carbon in front of the shade, the demon that's appointed on that, saying the future, whatever it is. That's what he's doing. That's what the oiv is. Not the same oiv as over here, because the oiv over here is without a maisa. Frak the Gemara, Amalei Rava Mekater the shade is the shade. You can't say that because Mekater the shade is a ma'aser of Ovid Avodah Zarah, and if you're worshiping that shade, you can't do that, and that's going to be chayiv anyway. Also Ovid Avodah Zarah. It's not oiv; it's a separate thing. It's the same thing as regular Avodah Zarah. So and it says Avodah Zarah there already. Why are you saying Avodah Zarah plus oiv, which is also Avodah Zarah? That doesn't make any sense. So Rava says, Elam Rava Mekater l'chaver. You're not doing this mekater in a worshipful way. You're doing it in a kishuf way. L'chaver is to attach the bring the Rashi says to the Hamach Shefais, they're doing this Haktorah to cover the Shadim here. You bind the Shadim over here somehow. You make them. It's like the process that you use to do this kishuf is used through Shadim. And how do you get the Shadim to stick around? You're doing this thing. It's not a carbon to them, so it's not a Avodah Zarah, but this is somehow the method of how you're doing it. So the Gemara says, Amalei says, if you tell me that the guy's doing it just to bind the shadim here, that's a different issue. In the same pasuk it says, not the same pasuk, it's a different pasuk. The pasuk says, you're not allowed to be attached things. In a second, what exactly we're talking about attaching things. So you're not allowed to attach things. If you're doing if you're saying that you're mekater l'chaver, that's not oiv. That's chayver chaver. It's a different district entirely. And so he answered back. You're right. The Torah is saying that this situation that you're chayver and attaching the shadim, this kind of chayver will be chayiv skila. So he's saying you're right. But we're about to see in a second that the regular chayver is a little different. It's a different action, and that's only chayav alav. And that's what the Gemara is about to say right now. There's a gersa on the side. It's probably not in your Gemaras, but the gersa on the side that says, Gemara asks, what's the case of chayver that's only a lav? I have it over here. You probably don't have it. Gemara says, Kinetanya, like the following brisa, the Tana Rabbanan, the Rabbanan learn, and that's where we can say what regular chayver is, which is not chayiv skila. Chayver Tana Rabbanan, chayver. What's chayver? Echad chayver gadol, echad chayver katan. Chayver is attaching things. Somehow you make animals stick to a place or either come to a place or go away from a place through some kisha. That's chayver. So echad chayver gadol, whether it's a big chayver, in other words, you do it with big animals. Echad chayver katan, even if it's little animals. animals because that are it doesn't matter what size they are. Rashi says like bugs or worms or things like that, creepy crawlies. And even snakes and scorpions, if you make them either come to a place or go from a place, that's chever. And Rashi makes the point of saying that it's only if they're not about to sting you. If it's a case of kuch nefesh, and this is the only way you could solve the problem, then
why you bring them there? Why you bring them together? What purpose?
Maybe you want them to stick around.
You're saying what's the problem?
It's using keshev to do something in a way that you're not allowed to do it. And this is important.
Before that internet,
what?
Before that internet, they used to be busy with this stuff.
Yeah.
Something else in Brazil. They do it in Brazil.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, just don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. It was scary.
Okay, Dr. Mara. Amar Abai says, Helkach, because of this brisa, Haiman that summoned Zibura Vakraba, somebody who gathers through Kesha. I'm not sure what Zibura is. Is it flies? What does it say over there?
Zibura means bee with the scorpion.
Scorpion? What?
Zibura is a bee.
A bee. Okay, a bee. A bee or a scorpion. Huh?
They don't have animals.
Yeah, but they have one thing in common. What is it that they have in common?
A bee and a scorpion?
Yeah, so that's exactly what they have in common. So Abai is saying somebody who gathers a bee or a scorpion, even though you're doing it so that they shouldn't damage you, asur it's asur. Now, that's what Rashi says, that's if they're not chasing you. But if they're chasing you, then you're allowed to do it because it could be kuach nefesh. You see, even in Rashi's time, they had bee allergies, and it could be that a person gets stung by a bee. Could be kuach nefesh. It's also possible that Rashi's talking that it's a whole swarm of bees, and if a person gets stung by a swarm of bees, it can kill him. Okay. Rabbi Yechanan, my shnat the krius kamasler upon have a ma'isa, but kimas fasav lay a ma'isa. Rabbi Yechanan, what's the qualitative difference? That bending down is a ma'isa, but moving your lips is not a ma'isa. You're moving your body both times. Rava says, Shani Megadev Hil V'yeshtem B'lev. Megadev, the Rabbanan say, is not a ma'isa. That's a kimas fasav. He's talking. They hold that since the ikr Megadev is totally in a person's kavana, right? Rashi says, let's say a person is being Megadef. He's saying the words of Birchas Hashem, but he doesn't really mean it, right? He's not going to be chayiv, right? Because saying it out loud. But because his heart is not against what the Rabban Shalom. Why is he saying it? Okay, maybe he has Tourette syndrome. I don't know, right? But he's not saying. Doesn't mean it. But by bowing, that's not coming from the heart, and that's why Kivus Kamasi that would be considered a Maisa. So Fragmasiv Rab Zera Estakasha, we have a halacha Yatsu Edim Zaym Min Shein Ben Maisa. It's a Gemara in actually it's a brisa in Teres Kainim. Rashi brings down that that there's certain things by a Parakain Mashiach that you don't bring for Parakain Mashiach. And one of them is Avodas Kechavim. It has a separate Isser. So the Gemara says, if you include Chayvim Mrs. Bezdin, I'll include things like Mekalal Aviv, Mesis, Edom Zaymin, which are all things that you do by speech. So the pasuk says, the Maraisa says, no, it says Va'asa, excluding Edom Zaymin that don't do a Maisa, right? What are Edom Zaymin doing? Edom Zaymin are talking. That's a Kimas Vasa, and you see that the Gemara is saying that that's not considered a Maisa. Why isn't it a Maisa? Now, you'll tell me, what do you mean? You just said Megadef is not a Maisa, Kimas Vasa is not a Maisa, right? But Rashi explains that that's what Kimas Vasa is not a Maisa because it's totally in your heart. Since it's totally in your heart, that's why it's not a Maisa. But if it wasn't totally in your heart, like by Edom Zaymin, a Kimas Vasa would be a Maisa. So you see from the Brisa, not like what we said. The Brisa excludes Edom Zaymin, Shein Ben Maisa, because that's not a Maisa. Edom Zaymin is not coming from the heart, so it should be considered a Maisa. And Rava says no. Shani Edom Zaymin is different. they have it's mainly coming from sound. When Bezdin hears their voice in front of Bezdin saying testimony, it's the sound, and the sound doesn't have substance, right? So that's why it's not considered a Maisa Beidim Zayin. Tracks the Gemara. Rabbi Yochanan Lav Maisu. Rabbi Yochanan holds that a kol is not a Maisa. That's not true. For Imar, we learned the Brisa like this. We said a Brisa. I'm sorry, it wasn't a Brisa. Remember, Chasma b'kol and Higa b'kol. Let's say the guy is threshing with his animal. Halacha is like sachsam sherbedish. You're not allowed to muzzle your ox when he's threshing, right? So you're threshing with your ox, and it's about to bend down and eat the food. You say, Bessie, I don't know, Bessie's a cow, not an ox. Say, Bessie, don't eat, right? And your cow's a smart cow. It's trained. It locks his head up and goes, keeps on threshing. You were just placing it. You muzzled it with your mouth without saying anything. Or vinhiga b'kol. Let's say the halacha is klai behema. You're not allowed to go l'sakrish b'sherva chamar yachtav. You're not allowed to go and take an ox and a donkey and hook them up to a yoke, right? Hook them up to a yoke and play with them together. Right? Yeah. So what happens? You hook them up to.
Where do you get that food from? I just ate it. You ate it again. It keeps coming up.
Yeah, that's what it says. That they'll be jealous of each other. But what happened is one took this donkey and this cow, and you put them on a yoke. Now, normally you think of mice is you go give them a whip and have them go, but you didn't give them a whip. No mice. You say, guys, go start plowing. They're trained, yeah, whatever, yeah. They're trained and they go start plowing. So the memra is ha'imar. We learned chasma b'kal. If you told it to stop eating with your mouth, with your voice, I mean, when higa b'kal, you told it to start going to do the plow together with your voice. Rabbi Yochanan amar chayiv, Reish Lakish amar pater. Rabbi Yochanan says you're chayiv, Reish Lakish says you're pater. Rabbi Yochanan amar chayiv, Rabbi Yochanan says you're chayiv. Akimas piv have a maisa, because moving your mouth is considered a maisa. Reish Lakish amar pater. Akimas piv lo have a maisa. Reish Lakish says you're pater because moving your mouth is not a maisa. So you see that Rabbi Yochanan himself agrees that Akimas Vasav is a Maisa. The Gemara says, no, you're right. Akimas Vasayim is a Maisa, but by Edim Zaymin they'll be pater anyway. Why? Elamarava Shani Edim Zaymin Hoyel V'Yashnan B'Riyah. Edim Zaymin are different because their main chiyuv comes through the riyah, through their seeing of the Edas. And seeing is not a Maisa. Even if you say speaking, the koil is a Maisa, seeing is not a Maisa, and that's why by Kain Mashiach, they're not included. But just like we saw before, that by Megadef, it has to do, since it's coming from your intent, that's why it says it's Tali in your lave, therefore the speech is not a Maisa even though you're moving your mouth. Right, so over here also we're saying even though the Edim Zaymin is moving his mouth, and even though moving your mouth technically could be a Maisa, but since it's coming based on the Re'iyah, we don't consider that a Maisa.
Right, they're saying over here Eidus. They're saying Eidus. Is that a Dibur?
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you, but you see from the Gemara that the Gemara says that there's a qualitative difference between different speeches depending on what the context is. A Megadef will be considered a Maisa it's not considered a Maisa because it comes from his heart. Eidaim is not considered a Maisa because it comes from his seeing. And somebody who's Chais Mishar or Mani Gashar and Chamar Yachtav, it will be considered a Maisa because Kol B'etzim could be a Maisa. It's definitely very dakistic, and I'm sure the Rishonim and the Rishonim go to town over here. Zaktamar Vaiter, Tanar Abanan. Baal Oiv, what's this Baal Oiv? What's this Oiv? Zamadaber bin Aprakim, Umibena Tzili Adam. Somebody who speaks between his joints and his joints of his hand, the knuckles of his hand, I think it means. And Rashi says that this means somehow he takes the mace and puts the mace's body between his joints. I'm envisioning it as like he goes like this in his body. What?
Rabbit ice cream,
Me too. And somehow we can make it talk that way. Yudaini, what's Yudaini? Yadua B'Fiv. The first time I read this, I thought this meant a known etzem, but it's not. Yadayni is because it's called an animal called Yadua. That's why Yadayni, Yadua, right? It's the same word. So he takes the bone of a Yadua, whatever animal that is, into his mouth, and it speaks by itself. Back to Gemara, Mesa, I'll ask you a kasha. You're telling me that oiv is somebody he brings the body up and speaks through his head, through his joints somehow. The Navi is saying your voice will be muted like an oiv who speaks from the ground. My love, the mishtay kircha. This means it's talking about the oiv, the body speaks while it's buried, and that's why you can't hear it well because it's under 6 feet under. Where it says definitely no Wi-Fi. Where it says loy the sel kviasa ben aprakim mishtay. No, it means you take it out, take the body out, and it sits between the person's joints and it talks, but still it's not talking strongly, it's talking weakly, and that's why the Navi says it's like an oiv, you're not talking normally. Okay. The Rabbanan said, Bal oiv, what's Bal oiv? There's different variations of oiv apparently. Rashi learns this means he takes the body and puts it over his aver, his zaphros, his male genitalia. This word asks the skull of the person, the skeleton. What's the difference qualitatively in this one versus that one? The Gemara is going to say, I think we have to stop here. The Gemara is going to say that there's differences in how they were able to manifest the thing. Hold on. Let's just stop here and say we will continue in Ritz Hashem on Sunday. On Sunday, we'll start from right at the top of Samachet Samad Aleph. The Gemara, there's 2 dots. So we'll start right at the top. I'm Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Shua, on top of Samachet Samad Aleph.